Hello, and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes, bringing you another Old Man Orange Presents Via VHS episode. One of them from the rarities vault that we have from back in the day that just never got put out. So come join us for another fun-filled retro movie review. Let's jump on in.
So welcome back finally to the Via VHS Retro Movie Podcast. Spencer and I have a busy night tonight. We're gonna double up two podcasts. Hopefully,
yes. It's double feature it, but as in two different versions.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna do one extended podcast to kind of like double them up, but I figured they both needed they deserve their own episode. Both films. And then also there was some really cool stuff with the Predator one that I want to touch on, the original Predator within the flashback portal that I thought would be really cool. So we're doing Predator from 1987. Then we're going to do Predator 2 from 1990. And then we're doing this because next week we'll be doing a fast forward episode. That gimmick that we have where we look at contemporary films from VHS era franchises because Prey is coming out. Yep. Exclusive to Hulu. So far getting rave reviews. People seem pretty pumped about it. I was pumped anyway because conceptually it seemed pretty cool. The director seems pretty cool. And it seems like things are kind of, people seem pretty positive about it. So that's Predator week. Hey,
it's supposed to explain where that 1715 pistol Danny Glover gets at the end. It's supposed to explain that in that movie. That's the big thing about it, is it really ties into Predator 2, or at least that part.
That is cool. We'll touch on that more on the other episode. Yeah. Because we're just being gluttonous bastards this week. We're giving you all kinds of stuff. Channel 55 is finally debuting in the morning after so much. Dude, I've had a lot of issues.
Really?
Internet issues. I was supposed to record yesterday with everything I learned from movies. Didn't get that done. Didn't have the internet for it.
And it's sometimes once it gets to this peak hot part of the summer, I think everybody's just hanging out indoors. And what are they doing? They're using up the internet. Because the worst thing that can attack the internet is when too many people are streaming movies and so on like that. And you top it off streaming video games and all that stuff nowadays. That's the kind of stuff that really just eats up the internet. The bandwidth just goes away.
I wish we could strip the internet back to where it was in the early 2000s, except for this function. I love this aspect of it. But if we could just,
there's something about the late 90s to early 2000s internet. I felt and even a little bit farther back, I always called that was the Wild West age of the internet, where there was so much more freedom online. There were so many different places you could find and cool stuff. Because it's kind of like nowadays, even if you go to buy stuff, try to go find other places to buy DVDs or movies or any of that kind of stuff. There's very, very few places out there, and most of them just aren't really up to par. Where I remember back then, Amazon and eBay were only one out of many, many places you could go to find stuff to buy stuff. And the downfall is just the big stores just kind of got bigger and bigger and just kind of killed off all the little ones and so on like that. And the SEOs took over and all that kind of stuff. And it's sad because it's there used to be that time period where there was just so much stuff you could find on the internet. And it's weird how it's almost gotten smaller, even though it's gotten further in time.
Yeah, I don't know. I miss that there was a charm. There was a personality to the old internet. And my brother's actually doing some coding stuff. He's working in this coding boot camp right now.
Oh, nice.
And I said, bro, can you make me a GeoCities themed website? I'm talking, I want it tacky as hell. I want music to play as soon as you go on it, for via VHS, of course. But I want Dancing Baby, Fiery Skull, the visitor counter at the bottom, Netscape logo. I want all of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of even you think back in the day on even other things too. It's you used to be able on your social media pages, you could customize the Living Daylights album. And it's funny is with the farther we go on, we can actually do less.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird that like in the dial-up days, you could actually do more than you can do nowadays. I mean, beyond the streaming part. If you minus out that section of it, the streaming is the big thing that kind of changes with it. But I feel the rest of just the websites and things like that, I feel like they kind of went downhill compared to like what they used to be.
Oh God. Well, the Facebook really took it, like, is logistically, I guess, functionally, take away all the things that it is. Just functionally, Facebook has got to figure it out. I mean, it's your one-stop shop. You really don't need the other ones. Like, if you did it right, like if it wasn't such a shithole.
No, they got videos, they got shopping.
Yeah, it's just a shithole. And like, but MySpace wasn't like, hey, I'm going to get on today and my crazy uncle's going to be yelling about conspiracy theories. So it was like, hey, I have an Aerosmith background and here's the mute song that plays when you go to my thing. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, you know, it's fun.
Yeah, and here's a bunch of flashing lights that I shouldn't have, but it's my choice, so that's why I have them.
My page, my choice, you know. Not making light of anything.
Exactly.
When I say that, just, you know.
But hey, as I said, the Wild West days. It
was fun. It was fun. There was a charm to it. And I do like not having to wait an hour to load Nick's WCW page. But I miss that kind of stuff.
Ironically though, at 56K days, they used to load faster just because websites didn't have so much junk going on in them. They were streamlined almost in the right way. Yeah, as long as somebody knew what they were doing.
I see. For me, and I don't know enough about the internet, so somebody may listen to this and be like, "Wow, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about." But it felt like when I visited family in Florida or I was in other places, it went a little bit faster. But the dial-up that we had. And we didn't even have the cheap kind. It was just like it was like statesville.net was the thing that you got. Like, and it was bad. It was just really, really, really bad. And it was super slow. So if the speed can stay the same, I like this ability to do what we're doing now. This is great. So just keep all the things I want. And if everything else can go back in time a little bit, that would be great.
Well, you know what? If anything, I think we should jump back in time. What do you say?
Oh, I think that we, if the internet should have a flux capacitor functionality, and we could jump into the flashback portal. But you know what? We're going to do that anyway.
Right now, we're going.
All right. So flashback portal. I'm so excited. Okay. So what I've been wanting to happen so bad. It's like I mentioned this episodes ago. I'm gonna start talking about news when we do the flashback portal, and every week I go on there and I'm like, "What's in the news the week this movie came out?" And jack shit happens. Nothing happens except for this week. The same day, our rewind review for this episode is the first Predator, and we're going to do Predator 2 next episode. And so we're going back to. I think I'm not looking at it right now. June 12th, 1987, I believe.
I'll take a double check. Yeah.
June 12th, 1987. Not only did Predator release that day, but that same day, Ronald Reagan told Gorbachev, tear down that wall.
This wall.
Tear down this
wall.
I'm not saying that the release of Predator ended the Cold War or precipitated the fall of the Soviet Union, but I'm not saying it didn't either.
Well, even in Predator 1, I mean, they do find those Soviet documents in there, and, Arnold's getting pissed off at Carl Weathers for taking him on the wrong mission and whatnot, but maybe the Predator himself stopped the Cold War. Maybe the Soviets saw something there, like, it's not worth it anymore. Once aliens are involved, that's it. Yeah.
Maybe that's it. I don't know, but it's just like there's so much muscly man action, so much America in there that maybe it just they just shiver their timbers, I guess you could say, and they said, "Well, I'm backing out." I mean, when you got Jesse Ventura, I ain't got time to bleed. Just greased up, oiled up, and just it's uber American. And then that just after that, they're like, "We got to tear this wall down now." Like what? We can't go on with this pretense that we're going to win this thing anymore. I mean, look what America just did.
Yeah. We saw Rocky IV.
Yeah, so Rocky IV, and then that was like, that was like the first, hit to the wall, and then this happens. They're like, we got to tear this shit down. We have no chance anymore. Cold War's over. Yeah.
That's it. It's done.
I don't think, what year did it actually end? I think technically it ended in 90.
Yeah, I want to say so because
With some Predator 2 was released.
yeah, exactly.
So
Because I almost want to say that also because when you have Rambo 3, whenever that kind of came out, like the thing was is when that movie was kind of being made, you still had all that Soviet stuff. And then by the time the movie kind of came out, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, Soviets aren't bad anymore. So
yeah.
I know we got this patriotism going towards like fighting them, but now it's kind of changed between the start of this movie and the release date.
Yeah.
By this point, I don't think anybody notices it anymore. It was just more at the moment they kind of noticed it.
Oh yeah, I mean it was that was I mean I guess this was technically the end of it, the Gorbachev tear down this wall thing, but I think 1990 was actually the fall of the Soviet Union when it was like we're gonna
yeah that's kind of it.
But I finally had a news story, and I'm pumped about it.
Exactly. At least there's finally one that's not just any old kind of boring ones like
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You get a classic one right there.
Yeah. So write it down. You could write. I said it. That Predator into the Cold War.
Yeah, that was John McTiernan's plan the whole time.
Yeah, thanks, John McTiernan, for everything that you do. So yeah, that was June 12th, 1987. Mr. Gorbachev tear down this wall. Ronald Reagan, feel how you want to feel, but he tore down that wall.
He did. Reagan smash.
Reagan smash. Well, Nancy, I fucked him up. No, but anyway, yeah. So
it would be like the Ronald Reagan teams up with that chimpanzee that he had back in like the 50s. I love old Ronald Reagan movies. They're always great.
I can anytime I'm like picturing Ronald Reagan dialogue in my head, like him saying something, I don't picture him. I picture the puppet from the Land of Confusion video. The Genesis, like I always picture that. Like that's Nancy, just Mr. Gorbachev. I'm like, why is a Muppet here? I don't know why. That's just what I picture. Great video if you've never seen it. Land of Confusion. I'm gonna let you decide. Do you want to do music first, or are we gonna go?
We'll build up. We'll go music, movies, then the movie.
I like that. I like it. So if you never listened to Flashback Portal before, this is when we go back to the week of said movie released. We look at the pop culture surrounding the release of that movie. What was, playing on the radio in your car, you driving to the theater. What else was in the box office against said movie. Hot 100. I didn't pull up the rock charts or any of that stuff just because we had to kind of speed through these episodes a little bit. So I'm not going to go through all the video sales and all that stuff, although there was some cool stuff in there. But number one on the Billboard Hot 100 is Kim Wilde. You Keep Me Hanging On.
Oh.
You just keep me love that song. Not really.
Yeah, it's one of those ones you still hear though.
Yeah, Always, Atlantic Star. That's popped up before on some other movie we did. We'll see when we do the box office which movie that was.
Yeah,
I think it was a Bond.
Oh, I think The Living Daylights. That's 87.
I think it was. We're just guessing, but I think you're right. Lisa and Cult Jam. They love you from head to toe. That's what it says.
Yeah, there we go.
Coming in number 3, Lady in Red by Krista Berg.
Mm-hmm.
That Whitney Houston. She Wants to Dance with Somebody.
Oh, I forgot that is when that song is.
Yeah, 1987.
That's still like the number one song, or like the number one requested song. It's like it's been that for like 30 years or whatever.
But like weddings and stuff, or just like
I think for like a DJ request list, a lot of times you see them on that. That song's always like top 3.
Really,
yeah. Guaranteed that probably gets played at like 90% of weddings, if not more.
Weird. I never would have thought that, but I mean, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times it's an open dancing start song too.
Oh yeah. Diamonds, Herb Alpert.
Oh yeah.
Number 6. You'll like this one. Wanted, Dead or Alive.
Bon Jovi. There we go. I knew that was gonna come on there. I didn't know if like Guns N' Roses was gonna hit up on here too, because that's 87. That's probably a little bit later that it starts to start peaking.
But you got the Jovi.
Yeah, you got Jovi.
And then after that, you have we just mentioned this band just a minute ago. Mr. Phil Collins here with Genesis, In Too Deep.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
One of their more slower kind of poppy romantic hits there. Making a weird appearance on the charts in the 80s. Smokey Robinson with Just a Seer. And then finally coming in number 10, Nothing's Gonna Change My Love for You by Glenn Middy. There's a typo. I'm looking at the actual Billboard charts and I cannot read the name. So I'm not going to butcher it because I literally cannot see it.
It's probably one of those ones, just the copied version of it or whatever when they scan it in.
Yeah, it looks like MED. I can't tell if it's an O. I can't tell. I really can't see. I just know it ends with Ross. So that's what I know.
It's not Aerosmith, so it doesn't matter.
There you go. That's honestly, yeah. Just a few of them on here. With or Without You by U2. Mm-hmm. Heart, Alone.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Heat of the Night by Bryan Adams.
It's a good one right there. I like that song.
Mm-hmm. And then Sweet 16, Billy Idol.
Oh, there we go. Billy making the chart.
And there you go. And then new to the charts this week, number 33. It's gonna go up. Girls, Motley Crue.
Oh, Motley Crue. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. So that's a pretty old. Talk Dirty to Me is also there.
No Poison.
Yeah.
See, this is why the 80s is kind of a good time, is you can actually have metal bands on like the charts.
Yeah, you have Herb Alpert and Motley Crue on the same, like at the same. I just want to throw that out there. So that's pretty interesting. So there's your Hot 100 there. You're driving to the theater. You're probably listening to rock music. Let's be real.
Yeah, if you're going to see Predator, you probably are listening to the Girls album.
Yeah,
probably. I actually even say if you're going to see Predator, you're probably listening to a little bit older, harder rock. You're probably listening to more like Quiet Riot, and you're listening to like Dio and things like that. I feel like
that's what Dio came to mind for me. That's the one that hit my mind. So
maybe some Manowar for sure. You know what I mean? Because Manowar is all about pumping iron and wearing a loincloth and being as manly as possible. Okay. Well, I think that's really should have done this. They even got all kinds of songs about being in Vietnam and coming back and so on like that too. So,
well, there you go. I think that's what you should listen to if you're back in time and you're going to see Predator in whatever vehicle you're going to see that in. But looking at the box office for the week of June 12th, 1987, a lot of people went to see Predator. It wasn't just, a couple. It was a lot.
No, it was a big deal film.
It was a big deal film. It brought in $12 million opening weekend. Number one at the box office. Opening alongside Predator, number 2 at the box office. The Witches of Eastwick.
Oh, that's actually, because that's one of the movies that was a huge movie when it kind of came out. Kind of forgotten nowadays, I feel.
I agree. Yeah, Witches of Eastwick number 2. It's so weird when we do a movie and it's actually number 1 at the box office because we usually
because mostly it always takes a week or two for it to kind of catch in there.
Mm-hmm. Or it's just the way we do it. We find we've done movies even within this new run, like the first few episodes. It's been like there's been a few that just weren't even on there, like Hard Boiled. And a few like what's the anime movie we did?
Well, Hard Boiled. Whenever they're international movies, it's a little bit different, I think.
Yeah.
See, this is right when Arnold is starting to become like, because Predator almost defines like now he is just the ultimate number one guy. Not saying that the movies beforehand, but I feel like Conan and Terminator and Commando, that all sort of built up to it. But I feel by the time Predator hits, everybody wants to go see Arnold. Everybody who's kind of like, into action movies, like that's their number one guy now. Like he kind of has taken it over from everybody else.
Yeah, Predator was big, and then once he did Terminator 2, it was just like mega star.
Then he's the blockbuster. Everybody knows him. Even great grandma knows who Arnold is now.
Yeah. What's that guy, Arnold? Or my grandma would have butchered his name. She butchered every name.
It'd be like my great grandma. She just knew him because she was married, or he was married to Maria Shriver. Like that was how she knew it as. And she'd be like, I don't understand why he has to marry that big old muscle bound guy,
Just can you imagine when like she brought him to like Hyannisport or whatever. Like you brought him up there like to Cape Cod for their like little family get-togethers or like Thanksgiving or whatever. Like
Yeah, you know, at first everyone's like, "The hell is this guy?" You know what I mean? Like,
I just can't even imagine. They're like, Maria, what are you doing? And he's a Republican. Like he was always like a Republican. So it's like,
yeah. I mean, the only thing that would be worse is if she brought home somebody from Motley Crue. That would have been just like.
I think they might have been like just because he's like still could have been a Democrat. Like, but like Arnold was like literally buff Rush Limbaugh. Like he smoked cigars. He was like the same person. But like politically, actually, he's actually really kind of moderate when you listen to him. He's actually got really cool ideas, actually. But
yeah, he's kind of almost an in-between realistically, but, you know, still leans more on the Republican side.
Yeah, I think that what they call those, and I might be wrong here, but I think it's like a Rockefeller Republican.
Yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah. Beverly Hills Cop 2.
There's a good one. There's a good one right there. Tony Scott.
Yeah. Wasn't number one, obviously. Now it's a couple weeks old, so it's not debuting this week. It's a bitchin' box office, by the way.
That is like those three movies right there are already huge films.
Well, number 4, got some De Palma here going on. We got The Untouchables.
Oh, it's another fantastic film. It's just a good time for action movies too. Yeah,
87 definitely. Number 5 at the box office, The Believers. I don't know much about this movie.
Yes, I know that name, but I can't tell you anything more about it.
Just reading off the rest of it here, 6 through. We'll go to 12 because that's what's listed. There's only one more movie that's debuting this week with these other films. It's not number 6. That's Harry and the Hendersons.
That's good. That has the guy who plays the Predator plays the Harry.
So he's in the box office twice the same week.
He is, yes.
Damn. Ernest Goes to Camp. Number 7.
That's a great film right there.
Mm-hmm. We got to get into some Ernest, man.
Oh, we do. Oh, my gosh.
I think we need an Ernest month, or we could do that twice because there's so many films that we can break them up, you know. The Secret of My Success, number 8. Number 9, Platoon.
Oh, see, another great action film right there.
The other movie that's opening this week with these films is $1 Million Mystery. Mm-hmm. The Chipmunk Adventure coming at 10, and number 12, a movie that's been out for a while now, but a movie I actually it's one of my favorite 80s movies. It's become it's Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, I love Crocodile Dundee so much. I like all 3 of them too. Like that's one of those series. All 3 of them are good.
My wife and I don't fight much. This is a big. She teases me all the time about this. Crocodile Dundee or Dundee. Because it's 2 E's at the end. I say Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, I always said Dundee.
Dundee, right? She goes, no.
Yeah, you emphasize the D.
Yeah.
Well, you're just saying it faster if you do it the other way.
Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah,
no,
but it's Crocodile Dundee.
Dundee sounds D-U-N-D-Y.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It's D. You got to emphasize that
Crocodile
D.
Dundee. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know why this was a big thing. She still does it. She says it the other way just to mess with me all the time. I'll be like, that's not a knife. And is that Crocodile Dundee? Oh, get out of here.
Paul Hogan, amazing.
Mm-hmm. Did you watch that trailer for that weird Paul Hogan thing I sent you? Like the Incredible Mr.
It felt like some weird, like he was held at gunpoint and needed to make a Crocodile Dundee 4 movie, but it wasn't really Crocodile Dundee 4.
Like he owed taxes. Is what it was. Like he had to make something.
He had like a Red Fox incident or something.
Yeah, he had to get he called Chevy Chase up. He called like everybody else out of the grave. It looks like the Rapture. Like he had John Cleese was in there, and like Chevy Chase. There was all of these other people in it, and it's just I'm intrigued. I kind of want to watch it just because. Yeah,
that's how I felt too. I was interested in it, though. It was kind of like, this is kind of bizarre.
It's not an actual Crocodile Dundee movie. It's just like it's based off. It's a meta movie. It's another meta kind of situation. When we do the Crocodile Dundee movies, when we do those, we'll have to do the Incredible. I think it's called the Incredible Mr. Dundee or something like that.
Yeah.
I saw that trailer. I'm like, what?
Maybe it's doing the thing because like the Nicolas Cage movie came out where Nicolas Cage plays himself and then he kind of gets thrown into action. I feel like maybe it's like one's like, because a lot of times when one script sells, it feels like 2 or 3 other ones that are in that, like the exact same style get sold right away too.
Yeah. Except the Nicolas Cage one's a cool idea, and then this one just looked like a bunch of people that I like. If you told me they were dead, I'm like, oh, I'll believe that. I just missed it somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Somehow, some way.
Look up the trailer. But anyway, so that's your flashback portal for this week. We gotta get down to business.
Yes, we do.
So 1987, Ronald Reagan says, "Tear down that wall." They do it. And to celebrate immediately, I don't know what time of day Reagan said that. I don't know what the time frame was. You know, we're looking at different time zones here, but the stars aligned to where one of the final blows of the Cold War and Predator came out the same day, and it's so fitting because
it really is.
Predator is the ultimate testosterone flick. But people try to say it's the best action flick of all time, or one of the best action flicks of all time. I'm not disagreeing that it's great, but I don't necessarily want to call it just an action flick. It's kind of a slasher film. It's a lot of different things.
Well, that's what almost makes it kind of special, is because it is an action movie, but it's also a horror movie. It's also a sci-fi movie. And then if you get even to like the sub genres, then you do have, it's a war movie. It is a slasher movie. It's all kinds of other stuff. But it's like Jurassic Park, where it's sort of like Jurassic Park is an action movie, a horror movie, an adventure movie. It's a lot of things in one, a sci-fi movie. And sometimes it's kind of hard to sort of say that. Now, if somebody said that this movie is their favorite action movie of all time, I would never argue with it, because I feel like it is one of those ones that's like, it is up there. I mean, me as a kid, like me and my buddy Kyle, like 2 movies that we would watch like religiously was Top Gun and Predator. We watched the living daylights out of those VHS tapes. You know what I mean? I mean, as kids, we would go outside and play Predator. And we had kind of a rule that nobody could be Arnold Schwarzenegger, so everybody could be all the other characters. We felt Arnold was too big to be anybody else. So I remember my character, I was always Billy. That was who I gravitated towards, because he's one of my favorites. But, you know what I mean? We just kind of filled out the rest there, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was just kind of imaginarily there. You know, it's one of those things. But this movie was just so amazing. And I feel like it's a great movie for a kid, because it's the perfect like R-rated movie that you can show someone really young. And then some people might go, it's kind of weird because it is violent, but you know, violence is one thing, but it's kind of like that one where it's like, there's like a light bit of swearing in it, but beyond that, it's really just the violence, and they're fighting aliens and aliens fighting them back and so on like that. Perfect gateway R-rated movie, I think.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I was, my son had kind of fallen asleep. And my other son was sleeping in my arms the other day, and I was like, "Oh, time for Predator." And so I watched them in reverse order this time, because I hadn't seen Predator 2 nearly as much, obviously. Yeah. And while I was watching it, my son woke up right when it was one of the big entrances of Predator and Predator 2. He's like, "Sea monster." I'm like, "Okay, we'll go with it." And he was like, he got really into it, and he was like screaming at Predator the whole time. Yeah. So I let him watch some of it. He's already seen Jaws, and he just made him love sharks more. So I'm like, man, whatever.
That's mostly kind of how it is. I feel like as a kid, like there's a certain, I think when you're sometimes older, it can actually scare you more than when you're younger. When you're younger, you almost enjoy it more in a weird way. And it becomes almost like you see different stuff that other people don't see.
Yeah, he just saw a sea monster, and I don't think he really conceptualized the death blows or anything like that. So it's just like, oh wow, this is cool. It's a monster. Yeah. So he watched some of it, and I kind of feel bad about it a little bit, but also not. So we'll see. No,
as I said, I think that it's totally the right R-rated movie to show really early on.
Yeah, I guess so. But it is violent.
Maybe not Predator 2 as much, because Predator 2 is even more kind of, it has more extreme stuff. But Predator 1, I feel, is a little bit more kind of like, it's still actiony and violent and all that stuff, but it's kind of like, it sounds so weird to say that, but like kind of violent in like the right direction, I guess. You know what I mean? It's
it's not too gratuitous. And a lot of the violent stuff, like really gruesome stuff, most of it, not all of it, but a lot of it happens off screen, and then you see the corpse or the the blood or guts or whatever after you see the people skinned alive, but you don't see them actually being skinned alive, that kind of thing. But I came into this movie very late in life.
Really?
Yeah, because this is just one of those ones. Like, I knew how to choose my battles with my parents about what I could and couldn't watch. If you listen to the Channel 55 episode I did with Alex, you hear some of the hang-ups my mom had, which some of them are just funny. But she wasn't super strict. So I knew when to kind of choose my battles. But this isn't one that, like, Uncle Jody liked, so he didn't introduce it to me. I just always wanted to see it. And I actually had a Predator toy when I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
But I still didn't really get a chance to watch it. And then when I did, I think I watched it 2 times the first night I saw it, and then I watched it again the next day because I just was obsessed with it. Wasn't that old, but older than I should have been to see it for the first time.
Yeah, well, I know those moments when you find those movies that you're like, holy crap, it's so good. I got to like almost make up for lost time and so on like that. You know, this is just one of those ones that, like, because the very first Arnold Schwarzenegger movie I ever saw, I want to say, was Last Action Hero. And that's what kind of got me really into Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then all the other movies just kind of came, like, right around 1993 or 94, whenever that movie came out on video. Like, it just was like, I playing the catch-up games, like the Terminator, Terminator 2, Predator, Total Recall, you know, Twins, all the kind of stuff right there, and so on like that. And I just got this ultra obsession kind of going with Arnold that I still have today. I mean, like, if you look behind me, I just got, you know, there's a Turbo Man back there. There's 2 Arnold Schwarzenegger posters. There's above me, there's Arnold Schwarzenegger laser discs and all kinds of stuff, you know. So it's one of those ones, like, I always feel like the things that I'm most obsessed with is Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff, and that follows along with Jurassic Park and 007.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie is iconic. It's classic. I mean, there's so much. It's hard to really almost review it because so it's more of a retrospective because obviously we love it. I mean, there's really nothing negative. But some things that I noticed about it is this movie. You can nitpick the effects or whatever, but it just holds up very well. It's not. It doesn't feel like an 80s movie.
No.
Like in terms of its character, like the big muscly guys, like basically imagine your G.I. Joe action figures came to life and they're a bunch of degenerates. Like they kind of had that vibe to it. And a lot of other action movies do, like Commando's there too. There's some parallels between that, but it's the way it's shot, the way it's just ahead of its time a little bit. Kind of like Die Hard also, which is the very next year. Same director.
I feel like it's that thing. It's John McTiernan was one of those kind of guys who was, in a sense, creating the 90s look of movies, but, you know, doing them in the 80s right then and there. Kind of the same way that some of Tony Scott stuff is even too, like where it feels a little bit more futuristic than it really is when you look at the actual like date, you know. And I think just this one too, like, it creates that one, you got this big, huge cast of characters, which a lot of times in action movies, back in the olden days, I know you had things like Magnificent Seven, but even in Magnificent Seven, when you really like break that movie down, there's some big actors in it, but a lot of those actors almost aren't really as well known at that time period. Like Charles Bronson, he's in there. It's like, we know him like now as being a huge actor, but at that time period, most people probably like, oh, there's that guy in there. You know what I mean? They wouldn't have thought anything of it to him at that time and so on. But like, this movie right here is one of those ones where it's like, it does have kind of a pretty big kind of decent list. Now, I mean, it's not like as much like an Expendables one where you just got like all like the A-listers in one, but it's got still, it's like, you know, it's like you got Arnold, you got Carl Weathers, you know, who's been there since like the Rocky movies and so on like that. You got Jesse Ventura from wrestling and everything like that. You're bringing that in. Even, I can't remember, Richard Chavez, that guy's actually like an actual Vietnam vet too, just like Jesse Ventura. So it gives that kind of actual authenticity to it. You know, of course, you got Bill Duke, who's always amazing in anything he does. But, you know, he's also right there with Commando with Arnold and whatnot. And, you know, Shane Black, you got him in there, you know, from Right and Lethal Weapon and all that good stuff. There's so many characters in there. And even the Sonny guy, the guy who plays, Billy. Like, he was in that other Carlos Weathers movie. You know, I think that's actually the year after. Action Jackson.
Well, we actually did an Action Jackson episode in the past. It's on where it's at anymore. But the interesting thing about that, we brought this up when we did Action Jackson, is that there's that Joel Silver, like there's that run of Joel Silver films from like Commando, a little bit past this one, where maybe some of the biggest actors might change out a little bit, but like a lot of the side actors and side players show up a lot within like a 2 to 3 year span of like 5 movies. Actually, but more than 5, I think, maybe 5 to 7 movies. You Gary Busey, As in, like, well, he's in Predator 2. He's also, Lethal Weapon, and then Danny Glover's in Lethal Weapon, and then Predator 2, and then you see a lot of overlap. Carl Weathers is Action Jackson, but he's also in this. It goes.
Yeah.
There's so many examples, but even the smaller roles, like the less important ones, you see those guys show up a lot in that 5 to 7 year period. These guys got a lot of work.
Yeah, exactly. But just having this humongous thing of, list of all these kind of characters and so on like this, it's almost kind of because a lot of action movies back in the day, like you think of like a lot of times Clint Eastwood movies. Clint Eastwood movies, for example. Clint Eastwood's mostly, he's in there, he's the biggest actor. You notice that everybody else in there is almost like C actors compared to him. It's almost like they don't surround him with a bunch of other people. Once in a blue moon, you get like the Clint Eastwood Burt Reynolds one or something like that. But that's almost not very common. It's a lot of times, here's our A-list actor, surround him with kind of like the C-list people, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like the people that, like, you might recognize their face, but you're not going to maybe recognize their name kind of stuff. Where this one just is, it's like a bunch of people right off the bat. You're like, holy crap, look at all these actors right in here. I mean, granted, probably for me as a kid, this is probably the movie where I learned about mostly all these guys was actually from this movie first and foremost. And then the other stuff circled around afterwards. But it
needed Mr. T, though.
It kind of does. Even though, like, at the same time, though, it's like I love Bill Duke so much because I feel like if you had Mr. T, he would probably take over he'd either take over Carl Weathers or he would have taken over Bill Duke's kind of slot and so on like that. Which
would have been unfortunate. We've talked before, I think, during Action Jackson, how when you look at this group here, Carl Weathers is the best actor out of this group of people. Like, Arnold's just charisma. Like, he's a big dude, but he's not a good actor. But you just love him for because he does things that nobody else can do, and I think that's sort of what makes him. He doesn't have to be like the most hey, he's going to choose scenery and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't have to because he just has to be Arnold, and that Arnold's larger than life, and that's something that even the best of actors can't even play Arnold. You know what I mean? Well, that's the thing too with this is that even though he's larger than life in real life, and he's obviously the leader of this group and like the main guy, the main focus, especially the last act of this movie, he doesn't overshadow the other guys. Like you feel like these guys belong with him, especially Jesse the Body Ventura. Like they had such a friendly, I think it was a friendly competition during the filming of this with the arms and working out and stuff. Like it's a great group. Like the synergy is there.
Oh yeah, well I love this. I think it's in Jesse's book because I have his like autobiography or whatever, and in his he talks about that like what he would do is he's like once I knew that Arnold Schwarzenegger was going like the gym at 4 a.m, he's like I would show up there at 3, but then he's like what I would do is I take the spray bottle and make it look like I've been working out way harder than everything else, and when they walk in looks like I'm sweating bullets and everything like that. And then I remember just like he talks about another part where like he's like, it's like I was just trying to outlift Arnold and everything, and Arnold be like, one day, Jesse, you'll learn, you'll figure it out.
Oh man,
I just love Arnold. I have some more stories there, but I like how Arnold even played like he did his classic like bodybuilding jokes where he told the tailor, he's like, oh yeah, by the way, when Jesse comes in, tell him that his arm's 1 inch bigger than mine. It's gonna make him freak out. And so he was going by, he's like, oh my god, and he's like, I'm bigger than Arnold. Look at this and everything like that. He's like, okay, Jesse, if you think that's the case, we'll go to the gym, we'll measure, we'll do it over a bottle of champagne, will be the prize. Yeah. And then Arnold's was like 3 inches bigger than Jesse's.
Of course. You got to give props. See, that's something that just
psyching him out.
Well, I miss that kind of like competition, that competitive camaraderie that was just more present in the 80s in general.
Yeah.
Like that kind of machismo, like you see it a lot in sport. I mean, Michael Jordan. I mean, just he was kind of psycho. Let's just be real. I don't know if you watched any of The Last Dance, but he's just the man was insane when it came to competitiveness. But I kind of miss that. It's just missing today.
Yes.
And like even Arnold and Sly, they kind of had they had a pretty decent beef going on, even though they were probably friendly to each other and admired each other.
Yeah.
But they wanted to beat each other really bad.
Yeah. I know that like some of it they kind of like almost made bigger than it really was. Like, because like Arnold and Sly were kind of more friends than you would think, but they wanted to make it feel like in the media that they were really competing.
Yeah.
Kind of the same way that I remember even Snoop Dogg said about like the East Coast, West Coast rappers. He's like, ironically, we were actually more friends than people want to say. It was more the media. Yeah, they get your Biggie shirt on. Yeah. He's like, the media actually blew it out that we were all like hating each other, but that wasn't really the case.
Yeah. Yeah. I just kind of miss that kind of machismo. This movie, like, I don't want to, this sounds so cliche. When people say this now, it couldn't be made these days. It just wouldn't be made these days because it's just a different mentality.
Yeah.
Although that said, conceptually, I love what they're doing with this new Predator. It looks great, and we'll find out in a couple days. It's Wednesday as of the recording of this, so like 2 days we'll find out.
Well, it's even like there's Predators 3, Predators, and that one's still a fantastic movie.
I liked it.
But it is definitely kind of missing, like, you just don't have that ultra manliness thing. It's almost like manliness nowadays is kind of like people are kind of almost afraid to touch it. Like if it gets too manly, people start thinking of it in like negative terms and so on like that. So, because like Expendables is kind of like the final hoorah of that kind of like era. It's like that's sort of what Expendables kind of like keeps in there. And that's why I think I love so much about Expendables 1, 2, and 3, is they kind of keep that, just the manliest, the big guys, the bodybuilders, all this kind of stuff, because, even though there's like guys that are kind of still jacked, it's like, there's still like not that same feeling that like, I don't know. Cause sometimes certain actors, even though they can kind of look jacked, they almost look more like, well, you're just jacked for like the movies, but you don't feel like you're really like, a real life kind of like tough guy or anything like that. It kind of feels almost a little bit more fake. I mean, the Rock's like the last guy that carries that, still to this day. But it's almost like nobody competes with the Rock for that.
No, I think one thing that changed it actually, and you might say negatively, it's a movie I brought up recently, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time. The Russell Crowe and Gladiator, not like it was a different action star.
Yeah, well,
like he's built muscly, but he's not like grotesque. He's not like, I don't want to say grotesque. It sounds like it's a negative connotation, but like he's not just a massive dude. It's just like a more realistic kind of approach.
Well, and I feel that action star has always kind of been there because that's what Mel Gibson is. That's what Bruce Willis is. That's even what Clint Eastwood is too. You know what I mean? They're all kind of like that. They got the realistic build and so on like that. You know what I mean? And they could, I feel that action star kind of works. It's just, I feel the larger than life action star that kind of like Arnold is and Stallone became, and even some of the other guys, Dolph Lundgren and all that kind of stuff. Those ones just aren't nearly as, as I said, other than The Rock, nobody kind of competes for that. And that's not saying that people don't, Ben Affleck has very impressive physique in movies and so on like that too. I think at the end of the day, it's just, even though Ben Affleck can actually look pretty darn jacked and huge, I mean, even just look at him like in Batman and everything like that. But I don't know what it is. It doesn't have, even though I like Ben Affleck a lot, it doesn't have that same just like ultra like manliness feel that Arnold, Stallone, Carl, all those guys sort of have. Jesse.
Yeah. It's just a special time, a special movie, a perfect movie at the perfect time. But it's just, it did really kind of set the template for a lot of modern action films, just in doing things a different way. It doesn't have like a set template, although Predator 2, and we'll talk about this, kind of tries to emulate it in a lot of ways, and I wish it kind of would have more, honestly. But this film was just kind of a one of a kind thing, and it blows my mind that it was kind of hated when it came out. I think it was mostly because of Arnold. I think critics just hated Arnold.
I think that's it, because you got to think about, there's always the people that are a lot of times in the critic things, they're going to be a bunch of film snods, snooty people and all this kind of stuff. And I think the idea of this, in a sense, bodybuilder guy coming into the actor world, I don't know what it is. People, they hate when somebody from a different like media comes into like their set. It's the same way that like when how they treat comic book writers, even to this day, like they look at them like they're retarded, even though if they would just bring them in, that's literally like they're fantastic writers. Like, what's the difference? Writing a comic book is no different than writing a screenplay. They make it out like it's two completely ridiculous things. And it's like, no, it's not. It's the exact same thing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I don't know. There's just a lot of pretentiousness, I think, when it comes to movies like this, especially at this time. I think it's kind of eased up a little bit more now, but I think they really did just hate Arnold, because you can't deny that this movie is technically well made. Like,
oh no, it's superior to many other movies.
Oh yeah, especially at that time frame, it's like so well shot. I think McTiernan just knew his limitations. Like he knew what was going to be obstacles and how to get rid of them, and he knew when to use the special effects. Like the only template this thing follows is kind of like, kind of the Jaws thing where you kind of save the monster as much as you can. But the special effects aren't overused. They're used when they needed to be. There's it's just like, I remember hearing him say something about the jungle and like how he cleared space and all these things so you could see what was going on, even though it was like a very, very dense place that they were shooting it. Like, he thought things out. There was a lot of planning and action and just the slow shots that there are sometimes, and letting things kind of, understanding what's going on. It's well made. It's not just like, let's just throw a bunch of shit and crazy stuff at the wall and see what sticks. It's a very competent, intelligent movie, just like Die Hard is.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. There's a lot of really good stuff going on for this flick. And I think that's the thing about it, is it's expertly shot. And I think that's what kind of makes these movies. This, in general, too, also action movies are generally always looked down upon. It's like comedy movies, like they just never looked upon right. But I think as time goes on, there's certain other directors that rise up and so on like that and bring more, hey, no, these movies are amazing. These movies are fantastic. Because it's that kind of thing that once people like a Tarantino or Robert Rodriguez or any of those guys start kind of talking about these movies really well, then I think it kind of starts to change the minds of other people and so on like that too. But
I agree. Tarantino, especially today, like he's just so revered when he says something is good.
Yeah.
And he's one person that like I love and hate simultaneously. He gets, not his movies I love, but sometimes his pretentiousness irritates me. And like, this is a film, this is a movie. I hate that whole thing.
I don't like that kind of thing. And it's weird because then he'll talk such smack on certain movies, and you're like, I feel like, what are you doing talking like that? Like, you know what I mean? Like he'll make out, I don't know. It's that kind of thing where it's like, you know what I mean? But then it's like, he'll like a certain movie and it's like, well, that movie's not that good compared to the one you just hated on.
Yeah, like this week he was like, Jaws is the best movie ever made. Now I don't know what the best film ever made was, but that's the best movie. I'm like, well, come on, let's just. Yeah,
I hate that. I feel that they're all in the same category. I mean, like there's different genres, of course, and so on like that, but at the end of the day, it's like the thing that I always say, the fun factor outweighs anything else. Fun factor can outweigh acting. It can outweigh story. It can outweigh special effects. It can outweigh so many different things. It's not saying that, a really good movie story needs all that stuff to come together. But at the end of the day, if I'm having more fun in the movie, that's going to outbeat anything else.
To me, if it's incompetent, I can't have fun.
Yeah, but see, that affects the fun factor, though. See, the fun factors.
Yeah, like the new Jurassic movies. Like sometimes I zone out because it's just like I can't even. My mind can't break down the stupidity fast enough. Like I'm just like, well, that makes no sense. And before I can even really discern why I hate that so much, I'm on to something new that I just like. What the? It's so. But
we just need Michael. That's the downfall of losing Michael. I felt like he brought the science that everybody else just threw over their shoulder by the time he was gone.
Yeah, I don't know. This movie just, I don't know, man. Predator is McTiernan was on something right at that time. Like he was just on this path. It's a shame that he kind of like got into some trouble and did some things, because I think he deserves to be revered the way much more than he is.
Yeah, that's appreciated. The thing is, he made like just some amazing, ginormous movies, and then he kind of by the time the 90s were done, he sort of faded out. You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
we went to jail too.
So. Oh, yeah, there's that. So that kind of doesn't help, and nobody's. But it's kind of a bummer that like they just haven't ever brought him back in to do something, because it's like he's an amazing director. I mean, just look at not only Die Hard and Predator, but then it's like you got Die Hard 3, you got Last Action Hero, you got 13th Warrior. Those are all like ginormously good movies.
The Last Action Hero. I mean, I know your love for that, but that's just a movie that really underappreciated. Like it had some flaws, but it was. It's really underappreciated film. I had fun with it, and this movie is just masterclass. It's one of the best of the 80s. I mean, I think anytime you talk about 80s action films, Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, Predator, maybe the Holy Trinity.
Yeah, it really is. And it's kind of funny because they all kind of circle around with like shared members of all kinds of stuff in it.
Yeah. You do Terminator in there, but Terminator this actually parallels most with Terminator because it's kind of a horror movie too.
Yeah, well, and Terminator 1, I think, is actually more horror movie than it is anything else.
Exactly.
Like, I actually don't really, when I think of Terminator 1, I actually don't think of it as an action movie. That movie's
same.
It's almost more of a straight up horror movie with sci-fi elements and a little bit of war elements. Not necessarily action elements, but more war elements.
Yeah, you can associate Terminator more with Halloween than you could most action movies. But this is like a special thing. It's a slasher film. It's an action film. It's a very unique movie. And one things we haven't talked about, the characters are great. The camaraderie is great. But the design of the Predator.
Yeah. And they went through multiple choices on it too, because that's not the original design of the Predator. They had some goofy kind of looking like alien creature that Jean-Claude Van Damme was originally supposed to be in the suit so that he could be kind of like martial artsy and acrobatic. And then they realized they're like, you know what? One, this suit version's kind of dumb looking, and two, Jean-Claude Van Damme's only 5'9", so he just does not look opposing to Arnold and Jesse and Carl Weathers and all these guys that are 6 foot something. So that's where they got God, what's that guy's name? I'm drawing a blank around it real quick, but
I can't think of it either. But 7'2", he's a big dude.
Yeah, he's ginormous. As I said, he was also in
Harry and the Hendersons.
Kevin Peter Hall. There we go. But yeah,
Okay.
Harry and the Hendersons. He's in Predator 2. He plays a Predator as well there too. You know what I mean? So like, that guy's imposing. That guy looks badass. He moves awesome and everything like that. And I think that does, because there is that scene where like the Predator grabs Arnold by the neck and he's holding him up. You know what I mean? And that always, I think, kind of works well, which Jean-Claude Van Damme, you know, I feel if you had multiple Predators in a movie, I feel Jean-Claude Van Damme would be fine as one of the other ones. Like, oh, here's a smaller guy, but he's doing all these martial arts moves. That would be kind of cool. You know what I mean?
I think what was really cool about Predator and Predator 2, more so that one, we'll talk about this more, but they don't over-explain the Predator. They don't, but there's lore to him. Like, you look at him and you want to know more. Like, you want to know more backstory. Where did he come from? What is this technology? Like, how advanced are they? Like, there's some cultural elements to him, like the things that he does, the way he keeps trophies and stuff. There's like a cultural element to this character, which makes it more interesting to me, because then you want to know more about what this culture is, and they kind of delve into that later. And I think Prey is really going to delve into that. It seems that way. Yeah,
exactly. Because that's the thing is, you know, you kind of get them here, and it gives them just enough, but not so much that you're kind of having to over-explain it. And then 2 adds a lot more to it. I think also the nice thing too is, you know, you got Jim and John Thomas. They write the first one. They also write the second one. The cool thing too is that's their very first screenplay. They had like that's kind of like an interesting story in itself. Is those guys just kind of came in, wrote a screenplay, and just forcefully shoved it around town until like somebody picked it up.
So clever the way that happens sometimes. Like I think I told you about the Cowboys and Aliens thing, where he just
like the movie Cowboys and Aliens.
Yeah, like this guy wanted to write a movie, and so he said that he wrote a comic, and he went and gave it to comic shops and said, just give this away.
Yeah.
And then he went to Hollywood, like, look how many of these that I'm moving. Look at this. People love this thing. Look at how many people have this comic. And they gave him like a movie deal, even though he sold jack shit.
Well, that's always the thing is, like, if you have that kind of money just to buy and sort of distribute and pretty much give out free advertising, like that can make a huge difference. You know what I mean? The downfall is, you know, how much money like did he invest into that? $20,000+ more than that even, you know what I mean? Just to get that kind of going. I bet he spent $50,000+ if he's kind of just giving it out like that. But you know what I mean? But it worked. It definitely worked. It kind of goes to show sometimes that if you spend enough money, there does get that threshold where like it will work. It still is always a dangerous one, because if you, for some reason it doesn't work, then you're $50,000 in debt or whatever it is. But yeah.
Well, Predator, amazing. I can't say it's completely lightning in a bottle, because I don't feel like it was much of this fell into a lap. There was a lot of really good decisions made to make this happen. There was a lot of intelligent. There's a lot of thought process into getting the right people. You know, not a lot of it was happenstance. Like Star Wars is lightning in a bottle, the original one. Like, right movie, right time, right group of people. Like Harrison Ford's doing carpentry work. Like, hey, you're Han Solo. Like that shit's. This was just people at the top of their game putting together something really well, knew what they were doing, and executed it incredibly well. I think even better than they anticipated.
Yeah, well, because also it has a lot of fresh guys on here too. Because even John McTiernan, he never did a feature movie, I think, before this.
Yeah,
you know, and you know, you got those writers. It's their very first movie and so on like that too. So you got that there. Then you kind of bring together star talents like Stan Winston doing the special effects, Arnold Schwarzenegger coming into like his prime, and all these great other actors to back him up in a sense. Like it has sort of a mixed match of like a very new classic of the times, like they're mixing all different types of elements all together and sort of creating in a sense that action sort of sci-fi horror thing. Because, you know, even before this, I'm trying to think of a movie right beforehand that has that same feel that Predator does. Because once again, as we said, Terminator, way more heavy in the horror than it is anything else. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones too, like Aliens. Aliens, I guess, is kind of the closest thing because that is sort of an action. It's less on the horror, more on the action, and kind of a mixed match there. So Aliens probably is the closest thing that you could kind of say in this similar, but
well, that thing that's the sad part about McTiernan is that I wish he would have kind of got a little bit more. I think Cameron kind of started pushing him out.
Yeah,
and I wish that instead of James Cameron pushing him out, that they were both just getting stuff, because I don't want any less of James Cameron in the 80s and 90s or even now. We'll see how Avatar goes, but I don't want any less of him, but I would like to see more McTiernan. I think 13th Warrior is kind of underappreciated.
I do too, because that's a great movie. Another Michael Crichton movie too.
There you go. Michael Crichton, man. R.I.P., bro. But anyway, we have a lot to talk about with Predator 2. So we're going to kind of wrap it up. There's not a whole lot you can say that hasn't been said about Predator. I mean, it's that iconic film, one of the biggest films of the 80s, massive franchise, and it's continuing this week with Prey. And I cannot wait for us to watch that and talk about that film, because I've already got a lot to say and I haven't even seen it. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? And even Predator, I mean, it continues in all forms. It's in comic books. It's in Alien versus Predator stuff. It's in video games. I mean, they had that Predator game not that long ago that kind of pretty much plays like Predator 1, where you kind of go in as a group of team. Now, the only downfall is you can only play as Arnold Schwarzenegger and the girl from Predators. For some reason, like, it would have been so much better if I think you would be able to play as Carl Weathers, you know, and Bill Duke and Jesse Ventura and so on. But I felt like that was the thing. It's like, that's what you're missing. You guys just got to license out all these other guys too.
Was that a fun game?
It was. It was pretty darn fun. It's one of those ones where those are those kind of games, because they're just those ones that they're pretty much multiplayer only. And I'll say they're fun for about 3 days. You have a great time. And after that, you're like, I kind of saw everything. Yeah. It has like 5 different maps and, you know, so on like that. But for the moment I played it, it was great. And I just played as Arnold Schwarzenegger the whole time. I'm like, I'll pay $6 for the play as Arnold. I don't need to play as anybody else.
Were there NES and SNES games for this? I feel like there were.
Yes, there's an NES game of Predator 1. I want to say there's another one too. I know on Genesis there's Predator 2 and on computer as well. You know, and then of course as time goes on, there's Alien versus Predator, which is always great games. And I mean, those ones are super fun because you get either play as a Marine, an alien, or a Predator. So
that's dope.
What's not to like there? Yeah.
Well, anyway, thanks for listening to Via VHS Retro Movie Podcast. As always, you go to oldmanorange.com and find all the great stuff Spencer's doing over there, Pizza Boys and all that. And we may talk about that a little bit more in this next episode. But you want to yell at me, you can go Twitter at Via VHS. You go to Instagram at Via VHS Pod. I think I'm at Via VHS on TikTok, which I got to do better about doing that more. I saw you. I haven't even seen yours. I just saw you.
I haven't done one in so long till the day I'm like, I got to do something. I'll go stand outside and do a Predator short clip. Yeah,
I need to be better about it, because I actually kind of it's actually does more for the podcast than, you know, like Facebook or anything else does. So, but yeah, go find me on those social media platforms. You can yell at me there, and definitely go to oldmanorange.com. Check us out. But we'll be right back for another episode. There's Predator week, so we got a lot going on. So we got to talk about Predator 2. We're going to be in the same clothes. I'm wearing my Biggie shirt. You're wearing
Wearing my race band and looking shirt.
Yeah, there you go. And with that, Via VHS is out.